Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's just me today, and today I'm talking about the AMX 50B reclassification with Valor. Recently, Jeff Gregg has came out and said that the AMX 5100, the AMX 5120, and the AMX 50B are all being reclassified to medium tanks, and more of the thought process behind them is that it's not performing as well as a heavy tank, so we're just going to go ahead and reclassify it and decide, yeah, it's going to perform more like a medium tank, which it does, right? It's got lightly armored, it's a big target. So, right, let's talk a little bit more, right? The win rate of this tank performs exactly as it should. Right, it's looking at a 50%, which is that exact target that they always aim for. However, it just doesn't survive as often as they'd like it to, right? Which I don't understand why they would reclassify it if its survival if it's having issues. But where it loses in some survival, it makes up in mobility. You know, it's a very fast, heavy tank. It's good at ramming. It's got some decent armor on the hull. You know, it's just the big turret makes it a big target. You know, it's kind of like the Waffle in such a way, where the Waffle has that big housing on the back of it, and the housing is not as good as, like, it just has no armor, so it makes it a big target. And you'll eventually have those occasional bounces, but it's not that good when it comes to that kind of stuff, right? But I don't think reclassifying it as a medium would be considered a good thing, right? Because mainly this tank is a heavy hitter, and I felt like it was in the right place with the heavy tank. Maybe it could have used a few more millimeters of armor, maybe even, you know, a small buff to firepower, you know, just so it stood out a little bit differently than other heavy tanks, right? But classifying it as a medium, you know, what's that do for this? You know, all you're doing is changing an icon, you know, or you're trying to kind of like put it in a niche group, you know. If it's not performing well as a tier 10 heavy, or, you know, in 50B terms, or if it's not performing very well as heavies, you know, slapping it in the medium group, you know, it's going to pretty much outperform some of the mediums, you know. But I can see where they're coming from on this, you know, it's not exactly what I had in mind for changes, you know, but I really wish they would have done a little bit more, you know, because, like, this just seems like a lazy cop-out of, you know, updating tanks, you know. It's they hype up this big rebalance, you know, and all they do is change an icon for us, you know. What difference does it make other than you're classifying it and it's going to see better? Honestly, some things that would have been better to change, maybe give a small alpha buff for damage. You know, I'd love to see this thing with its 120 pound out at least like 450 damage a shot. But then again, I'm asking a little much here because Wargaming, they don't want to do that. But it's just one big identity crisis with this thing, and you can't play like where you can play it like this. It's just like, oh man, it is so stupid. I love the AMX 50B. Alright, it's a great tank, you know. I love the hull. I love the speed it has. I'm a big fan of autoloaders. I love the fast-moving mobile tanks, right? And this one gave me a little bit more of a kind of like a break, you know. It gave me a bit of difference in my playstyle, you know, because it could play like a heavy tank, but it could also play like a medium tank. So, I mean, I guess kind of putting it in the niche group with mediums, you know, would help some, but, you know, there's some things that need to be adjusted on this tank, you know, whether it be alpha or maybe even, you know, a clip or clip reload speed, because the gun underperforms a little bit, you know. You get 4 shots, and it cycles 4 shots every 35 seconds, I think it is, 35 to 40 seconds, and it's got some good DPM, good damage. You'll see in this gameplay that I have playing in the background, I'll do about 7,500 damage in a battle, So it's a great tank, you know. It's just that it needs more love other than just getting an icon change. You know, it's not only that, if you put it in the medium class, you know, it's easily outperformed by other mediums, you know, because you have tanks like the FV4202 or even the Object 140, you know, other tanks, you know, comparable, because there's a lot of medium tanks in this game, but, you know, just simply changing the icon from heavy to medium doesn't change that much, because, you know, if you're going to want to change some of these numbers you put down on paper, just changing the icon doesn't change anything, really, because all you're doing is reclassifying it just so it feels a little bit more welcome. It's kind of like if you take the new kid, right, and instead of putting him in this advanced group, you put him in a lower group just because you want him to kind of like, if you're thinking about in terms of like schooling and everything, like you want to take the new kid, you don't immediately put them in the advanced class, you put them in the intermediary class where you kind of let them try and figure out their path, and, you know, we'll go from there. But it's not going to help at all, you know, when it comes to this stuff, because all you're doing is changing an icon and you're trying to kind of fit it in the right group at the right time, you know. They said they're going to change a lot with Valor, but honestly, this is not a change at all. This is probably this is going to be the most useless so far change that they made during Valor. Next time, we're going to have Cujo talk about the Object 268 version 4 and the Death Star. Death Star's getting nerfed, unfortunately, so nobody's going to be derping anymore. But it's I hate to see it go like this, you know. I wish it was going to be a better. I wish they would change something instead of just an icon, you know, because you can't just kind of group them like that, you know. I feel like if you're going to focus on rebranding and rebalancing the entire game, then you need to change actual stats, you know. At least with like previous tanks like the TVP and the Chisel, we've actually seen changes and they are very welcomed in my book, right? But if you're going to classify, you know, the tier 8, 9, and 10 on the French heavy autoloading line, you should also change, you know, maybe something like the Super Pershing or the FCM 50T. The FCM 50T, it performs like a medium tank, but it's still classified as a heavy tank. Or even the Super Pershing, where it performs more of a heavy tank role versus a medium tank role. You know, it's really, it doesn't change much. You know, if you're going to categorize them by, you know, how they perform, then, you know, a lot of tanks wouldn't be in the positions they were now. So I don't think this is going to go anywhere. I don't think any of the numbers are going to change for you, Mr. Jeff Gregg. But I guess we'll kind of sit here, bite our tongues, and hope that we get something that's going to change more drastically, or, you know, we'll get actual results here, you know. Because from what Cujo's telling me, and just kind of mentioning this, Cujo's telling me that the Objects 268 version 4, the tank destroyer that got recently changed last Wednesday, Tuesday, he said it's a lot more playable now versus, you know, the Object 705A, which would have been a more preferable option to the Object 268 because they have the same gun. So, you know, we want changes like that in this game, you know, not something where it's just an icon change. So anyway, I'm done ranting for now, but do keep an eye out. Tomorrow I'm going to be trying to upload the the T78 video, because that's long overdue. We had that recorded. The Object 244, I got to get that out as well, and I'm going to try and focus it on uploading that stuff. I recently completed a move, so I'm kind of still getting situated here, trying to figure out my internet situation, and I'm lucky enough to get this video out to you all. But so for the next Valor rebalancing, you should look out for Cujo on the next two. I'm going to see about talking to somebody about getting a Chisel, or talking about the Chisel, come soon. So look forward to that. So anyways, please like, subscribe, and leave your comments down below. I want to know how you feel about this change. What do you think Wargaming could have done to make the AMX 50B and, you know, the 2 tanks before it, you know, a lot better, you know, other than just changing an icon, because it's just a you know, it's identity crisis. So, all right, please be safe, and I will see you next time.